Greetings, beloved Star Child Rising. You are in Christina's Corner, and I'm Christina. Welcome back to the podcast where I have the opportunity and the honor to highlight and celebrate individuals who are out here leveraging their gifts and their talents to help us raise the collective frequency of this planet. And today, we have a truly remarkable guest joining us, someone whose life's work embodies a profound dedication to both human and natural well being. Randy Walker Jr. is a man of many fascinating layers, a child of the 60s, a talented drummer and percussionist, and someone who spent 3 decades on the front lines as a family therapist and executive director of a nonprofit, passionately working with abused and neglected youth. But Randy's journey didn't stop there. For the past 32 years, he has deeply immersed himself in the teachings of Tom Brown Jr. at the renowned Tracker School in the New Jersey Pine Barrens. From student to helper, and now as an elder and part-time instructor, Randy has embraced a deep connection to the earth and its ancient wisdom. This unique path unexpectedly led him to become an author, co-authoring the vital book, Tom Brown's Guide to Healing the Earth, with Tom Brown Jr. himself. This guide is a powerful call to action, rooted in grandfather's timeless wisdom, inviting us all to become caretakers and healers of our planet. Randy, it's an honor to have you here to share your incredible story and insights. Welcome.
Thank you, Christina. And it's an honor to be here talking to you uh, and be
Well,
able
I
to talk about this, to reflect on my life, but also to really share where it's led me.
yeah, and I'm excited for the conversation. I know you've been really busy with the summer camps that you're doing that we'll get into. Um, so, Randy, on the podcast, I always have 6 questions. And the first one is always for you to take us back to your upbringing. What were you like as a kid, and were there any clues that you had that would lead you on this unique journey of yours?
I think there were a lot of cues, like like I mentioned, a lot of self-reflection, uh, preparing for this first question because and some major editing to do too to keep it on topic. But
Okay.
but um, I grew up in Towson, Maryland, outside of Baltimore. Very middle class family. Both my parents were teachers. My father a phys ed teacher, and my mother an English teacher. Uh, I laugh because my mother was always trying to get me to be good at English, to correct my English. And of course, what that did is made me want to shut it out.
Hmm.
So, but I was an adventurous kid. I was loud with my enthusiasm. Uh, I loved playing outside. I loved playing imaginary games early on. And you know, this is in the 1950s. Things were so much different then as far as young kids being able to wander the neighborhood and stuff like that.
Right.
And uh, I would find natural places, develop hadn't been developed yet. If you drove through Towson these days, it's all developed. Um, and so I'd play in these climb trees and hide in the bushes and build little forts and play games. Um, Whenever my friends and I were doing that kind of stuff, and we played cowboys and Indians, I was always an Indian. I always wanted to be an Indian.
Mm.
Um, and one of those places close to my house, I went back one day to play, and it was gone. it had been all cut down and removed for housing, uh, and uh, that was the first time I ever felt a real loss, something that touched me, made me upset, and and I liked sports. I liked running. I liked bicycling. Um, and when I was 5 years old, my father got a Fulbright scholarship to study the gymnasium or phys ed system in the Netherlands. And so the whole family, my sister was just born before we left in the summer of 55. And we lived in Holland for a year. And I turned into a little Dutch boy, um, only speaking Dutch with my parents after about 3 months. And uh, just a lot of formative kinds of things happened to me there. But uh, when I came back and started elementary school, the um, the kids thought I was a foreigner because I still had a Dutch accent in my English at that point. I was strange, my father took me to summer camps that he worked at in Maine, uh, beginning when I was 7 years old, and uh, um, the first camp we went to was uh, for 3 years. I was the youngest camper there, and Maine was just wonderful. And I remember just running around the woods, turning over rocks to see what was underneath them, and and met a really great group of people at that camp. Um, Made me think and stuff. And I think somewhere in there, I heard about the concept of infinity. And I remember as I'm going to sleep at night, as a pretty young kid, thinking about infinity and trying to imagine just going out and out and out and out and out, without an ending. Um, and I loved reading. A lot of authors were influential in my thinking and my stuff. As a kid, The Jungle Book, uh, and as I got a little older, I liked spy novels. I loved the Ian Fleming books when they came out. Le Carre uh, is such a great writer, and uh, Tolkien, the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I'd read several times by 11th grade. Um, the autobiography of a yoga by Yogananda um, made me really wonder, and I was wondering, um, what's I guess in a very, I didn't think of it this way, but how does this world work? What's the meaning? Uh, um, what what brings a sense of real self? Um, and so I had a lot of questions, and my parents had me go to an Episcopal church, and the church kind of piqued my interest a little bit, but it didn't explain anything. But I appreciated, the basis of the lessons, um, and and then I read in later high school, Memories, Dreams, and Reflections by Jung, and that really got me thinking. The collective unconscious really appealed to my kind of sense of the cosmos at at that point. Um, I always loved drums, and that's music's been a really big part of my life. Um, Art and music. Um, I went to art school at Syracuse for my freshman and sophomore year, and I got a great foundation of art and art history. and for the first time in my life, I really um, got deeply involved in my studies in school and interested and passionate about it. Before then, school was just there was stuff that was we're interested in and learning stuff, but I was mainly there to I wanted to play sports, and I wanted to. My father was my hero growing up, a big influence on me, and he was the coach of the varsity boys basketball team at Towson High, and my dream was to be able to play for my father when was in high school, which I lived. Um, and we don't need to get into that, but it was a great experience. Um, but and also when I was at Syracuse, I met some people, and this one guy, he taught me about meditation, and he taught me about the I Ching, and he taught me how to throw the I Ching with the 49 yarrow stalks rather than the three coins, and introduced me to, that was an introduction to Chinese philosophy uh, that uh, I, has continues to interest and speak to me, and I learn from. But the I Ching also gave me a sense of a flow, my own flow in life, the way uh, I was, I experienced reading, you read about the hexagram that you just threw, and it's a lot more than that moment. There's a lot of teachings and wisdom in there. Um, and I played music with a lot of people. I studied congas with Kenneth Nash out in Berkeley back in the early 70s. I finished art school at the San Francisco Art Institute, and Kenneth Nash taught me how to hit the conga drum, and he taught me West African and Afro-Cuban rhythms. Uh, but his instruction and oh, you know, and there was an energetic aspect to his teaching as well as the physical, and that really stayed with me. I ended up back in Cambridge and got into that. I was doing group therapy with this guy who was into Meher Baba, and uh, I started reading and learning about Meher Baba, and it really uh, intrigued me, um, and so I learned about his life and how he was such a well, he's his symbol read mastery and servitude, and he was always promoting this thing called the new life, where uh, people just gave selfless service to those in need. Um,
And is that how you started serving the youth? You
no, but it planted a seed for
planted
sure.
a seed. Okay.
Um, because that his philosophy was all about love and uh, helping others, and a lot much more to that. But um, and I really that it's like a lot of different things that I explored really touched me deeply, but they weren't something that I could fully embrace. I couldn't just like I wasn't all in, but I for a while I was, but it um, and but also this therapist introduced us to Silva mind control, and he had someone come and run a week-long course for us in Silva mind control. And Jose Silva uh, is it was a great healer, I think. And actually, Tom and Jose had correspondence, and in this standard class, we always mentioned his book, Silva Mind Control, because it's really about the power of positive thinking and how um, you can you can use your positive thoughts to make things positive happen. And they even had these little exercises like wake up on time, find a parking space. Now, living in Boston, finding a parking space, um, I tested that out and I would get the parking place that I pre-programmed. It taught you about pre-programming. That's
Mhm.
another thing that grandfather teaches too. Uh,
So let's
and-
let's go into number two, where um, we're going to talk about grandfather. You studied with Tom Brown Jr. for many years before he transitioned just last year, I believe, right? Rest his
yes.
soul. And you deeply immersed yourself in grandfather's profound teachings on tracking and awareness. For those, Randy, who are unfamiliar with this wisdom, who was grandfather? And what is the essence of grandfather's philosophy regarding our relationship with the earth? And how has this understanding shaped your perspective on caretaking and living in harmony with nature?
Well, grandfather was uh, a Southern Lipan Apache. He his clan lived in the Mexican American border um, uh, from and when he was an infant, his his family group was attacked by Mexican raiders, and his parents killed, and he was grabbed and rescued by his great grandfather Coyote Thunder, and Gra- Coyote Thunder took him back to his clan, the Coyote clan, and he was raised there. And grandfather got his name, Stalking Wolf, when he was 5 years old. And in sight of several family members and the elders, stalked and touched a wolf, which was an incredibly dangerous thing to do for any stalker, but for a 5 year old, it was uh, impressive. And he went on to become a scout, uh, a shaman for the tribe, and a warrior against darkness. He, uh, the scout was like the peak, the pinnacle. But um, besides being the master of tracking and awareness and all the physical skills, the scout needs to a complete scout is also balancing that it's like the razor's edge. On one side are the physical skills and one side the spiritual skills. So grandfather, when he went out and had this 40-day in the desert quest and received a grand vision. His vision was to be able to find someone to pass on the traditions and the skills of his people so that they would not die out. The teachings, and he wandered North and South America for 60 years, multiple times going through South America and North America, uh, meeting tribal people and any elder seeking wisdom and trying to put together the spiritual teachings and the physical skills teachings of indigenous people in North and South America. And he would take those skills into the wilderness, into the purity of the wilderness, and if they worked in their simplicity there, then he would include them in the stuff in his toolbox. So he had a vision when he was in Central America of a white coyote, and he knew he had to return to New Jersey. That his vision was leading him there, and when um, he had been to New Jersey a decade before in the 40s, and he knew people in the area. And when he went back there, he met Tom Brown when Tom at this stream um, where Tom was looking for fossils, and grandfather uh, knew that this was the white coyote from his vision.
Wow.
And he taught uh, Tom, but he also taught his grandson by family, Rick. And so he called Rick Scout, and he called Tom Coyote. Those were their names. And Tom, uh, and so that took him there. But what grandfather really is getting at, the the seed of what he's trying to to have passed on is that, you know, we don't we have to become our true self, our birthright, and we've lost our birthright. Our birthright is not just our physical self. If you think of a little dot, whoop, the dot, that's you, and then you draw a circle around that dot. Oh, forget that idea. Um, there's this sphere around you that extends out, and that sphere outside of your physical body is first your critical edge, but then it's into the force, the life force, in where like ki or chi in Oriental, where grandfather would call it the spirit that moves in and through all things, which is we're connected to that, um, but we're caught in our physical body. And then beyond that sphere of the spirit that moves in and through all things is the sphere of the spirit world. And we're connected with that as well. But it's society has trained uh, the communications and the connections and the intuitive knowing that come from that connection out of us. And so we're reclaiming our birthright by uh, not living in just a physical world, but in the world of the force and in the world of the spirit. You know, um, we have a physical body, a physical mind, a physical spirit. We have a force mind, a force body, and a force spirit, and same thing in spirit. Uh, so, Tom, grandfather taught Tom, and Tom has passed his teachings on of how to um, connect. It's like there's places, right? You can go to a place. You can have a dream and you go to a place and you come back from it. You can want to connect with a tree and you go connect with that tree and then you come back from it. So you go to a place and you come back. But when you've been living, making that connection over and over again, eventually that place you go to and come back from becomes a state that you're always in to a degree. And once you tune in, when you want to tune into it, it's right there. Um, So why do that? Why live in your birthright and your pure self? Well, makes a lot of things a lot more interesting, magical. Synchronicity becomes a way of life. You get into the flow. You're not, uh, you're able to roll with the punches. Grandfather's people lived within the carrying capacity of the land. Everything that their food, their shelter, their tools, all came from the earth. And they gave back to the earth as a matter of course. They developed this give and take relationship with the earth. The earth was their first concern in how they acted in an area and how can they leave it better when they move on. So that philosophy of living with the earth is so deep. And, I feel maybe I've begun to, touch it a little bit, but and so, you know, how to sensing what the imbalance is and then seeing, feeling how to make that rebalance, comes from that connection. Um, Grandfather's touch was his trademark. And one of his quotes is, to touch is to know, meaning, you know, anything, to really know it, you had to touch it. Uh, and I think that I'd like to read two things. Well, I'd like to say, to share his prayer, the light, because I think that really sums up a lot of his philosophy. And he had a significant other that who he was apart from for the majority of his life, and she also was a scout and a shaman and a warrior of the light. And I'd like to read something from her. Her name was White Deer Running, but and uh, you know, I'm skipping a lot of stuff here. But White Deer, when she was 7 years old, they one of some of their migration would take them to the Gulf of Mexico, and this is written. This prayer was written when she was 7 years old. Hear me, O grandmother ocean, forgive me, for I have done nothing to help you. I have lain on your shores, conscious of your pain, and I've heard you crying in the waves, yet I've done nothing. Forgive me, for no matter how small and feeble my efforts, I will now fight for you, my grandmother, for I know that my blood is your blood, and from you I was born. Um, and then um, the light is well, I'll just say it. Become the light, a light to illuminate another's path. Become the light of love, of compassion, of healing and inspiration, a light unto a world of darkness. For by and through surrendering ourselves, the light becomes our reality, our truth, our love, our world.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. And that's something that's that prayer I say at the end of my sit in the morning. That kind of focuses the vision some, huh? And,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know, so I could talk some about building relationships with plants over time, or we could move into your next question.
Well, let's go to number three. It's pretty clear that we could do a couple more episodes and focus on different aspects of all that I can tell is bubbling within you to talk about. And I'd like to explore that. I really would. So um, let's keep that topic
Okay.
for now.
Yeah.
And let's go into number three. And I'll keep tabs on all of this stuff. I'm glad we recorded all of this stuff because we can just say, this is part two, part three, and we're going to go into this part four. So
Okay. Yeah.
I'm hoping that we will be able to keep in contact because it's not
Yeah.
only me and my daughter that's really interested in it, but I know that there are others who really will feel called to hear this and see this recording as well. So hold on to that. All right, number three. Tom shared that Tom Brown's Guide to Healing the Earth was written with a great sense of urgency. In the face of accelerating environmental challenges, what is the central message you both hope readers take away from this guide? Because you helped to write this. And how does it empower individuals to make a tangible difference in their local environments, regardless of scale?
Yeah. This the scale it can be tiny. It what's important is building the relationship with nature, built with the force, with entities on the landscape. When when you pick up that piece of paper and carry it out of the woods, and that sends out that that positive ripple into the force, that's a physical way of caretaking. And there's so many, we can do for the earth what she can't do for herself. Well, maybe over 100 years or something, but we can get it done. And so it's the deeper the relationship builds between you and the natural world, um, then this feedback loop brings you into a place of synchronicity. Uh, People call it a coincidence. Um, and it's not a coincidence, but that's another story, but I'll try to stay on track here. So because I'm not going to go into my list of things the way that the world is going down right now, uh, and and how what attack the earth is under, and we as human beings. And that's why it's so important to build that relationship with with Mother Earth. Let's put it that way. Um, because it's in grandfather's teachings and Tom's teachings, you're building a connection with that great mystery, and you're building a connection with the Earth Mother. And when you're doing healing of the earth or of a loved one or someone in need, um, it's not you doing it, it's the creator, it's creation. You uh, it's your faith that and the faith comes from building a belief system, so that communication with nature, with Earth Mother, builds a belief system as and when I say feedback from from nature, it's subtle, but it's always there. And the more aware we can become uh, of our environment, and that's, I just want to say that doing mornings and evening sit time, especially morning sit time, even if you're just sitting there enjoying the moment and breathing air and listening to the sounds, um, is a great teacher. You do that for a year in one place, and you'll know how that area, um, that, the rise and fall of what goes on in that area over a year. You'll learn so much about weather, about wind, about, how do I dress for different things. But it's a big teacher. In every class I went to, Tom said, at one point or another, people, you need to do your sits. And uh, so that daily sacred time, your increases your observation, your awareness. Feed the animals. Uh, begin building relationships with the birds and the animals, through, feeding them, and learning to move in such a way that you're not startling them when they're hanging out around you. I have a relationship with the turkeys. Uh, this winter, 16 turkeys were coming by my place all the time, and they'd wait for me to come out and feed them. And I'd be doing my sit, and they'd be getting closer and closer and closer the deeper I got into um, my my stuff. Uh, so there's such tangible, um, wonderful things that happen as you build that relationship. Uh, and and to tell stories about the earth. The earth needs to hear our stories about her. And storytelling is a big part. Um, John's John Young was Tom's first student, mentored like grandfather mentored Tom for 8 years. And John is also passing on these skills and building community. Uh, and he has a community, um, connection. Uh, little little brain fart here. Um, uh, Living connection first, .net, and the first is one ST, all work, all together. But this is a community of people who have agreed to have conversations about nature connection and learn about nature connection. And they're participants from all over the world. Uh, and I also work with John, and am an elder with his group and contributor. And we do 4 monthly meetings at different times to talk about the same
Mm.
subject, because
Hmm.
there's people from Australia, there's people from Europe, um, there's people from all over who are part of the community, and the different times, that fits in. And some people come to all four. Um, and those are really, uh, they've just been building this community for a couple of years. John and Sarah and Nate are the main team there, but there's so many other supporting people that help out with this. And John's been running programs for 40 years of one sort or another on nature connection with kids, with adults. Um, he's a wonderful friend, man, scientist, storyteller. That's how we got onto this storytelling. We have to tell those stories. And we also have to, like, Miko came back with all these great stories about what happened during the standard class. She needs to be careful who she tells these stories to, because if her audience isn't receptive, if people don't, if she talks to somebody and, oh, that's nice, um, it's going to dampen her enthusiasm in a sense. It's going to make her question the validity of her excitement. But if she talks to somebody who's really interested, like you, and you're taking walks and fox walking and wide angle vision, you know, that's that's going to help fuel her passion. So that's just you got to tell your stories to the people who want to hear them. And and that will create another feedback loop. Uh, so,
Yeah, she was sharing just the other day that a group of her friends from school were asking about, this 7-day adventure, with you all. And, as she started, she said that as she started explaining it, she could tell like about 80% were like they just kind of backed away, like
mhm,
I'm not interested in that.
yeah.
And but there was one person who said, you know what? My brother would love that camp. We got to talk to him about it. And so, I think there's something magical that happens there that helps to equip people to kind of navigate through those conversations, whether people are interested or not, you
Mm,
know.
mm,
When I first heard about it, there was no way I was going to be, being outside. The only thing outside I really like is the beach and the ocean,
mm,
you know, but her drive to want to do the research and want to go. And then when she came back, all that she's doing and how excited she is about it. I know that whatever happened there was pretty transformational, and we can talk about some of that another time. But
mhm.
yeah,
Cool. Yeah.
it's really good stuff that you guys are doing.
Mm.
All right, we ready for number 4?
Yes.
Okay. Number 4. So the book delves into many practical methods for healing our environment, from subtle acts like reading concentric rings to more direct interventions. As someone who personally embraces these practices, how has the act of caretaking become a way of life for you? And what personal fulfillment or joy do you find in these efforts to restore balance to the earth?
Well, the caretaking uh, has really deepened my relationship with the earth. And now the caretaking is a really broad subject. There's so many avenues, and each person has their own medicine, their own abilities, their own interests, their own passions when it comes to nature. Some people are drawn to the water. Some people are drawn to herbal plants. I mean, you name it, right? Um, and so first figure out what you connect with the easiest, the best. What looks to be fun for you or whatever. What do you want to do? And then pursue that angle. For me, uh, it's well, it's just gone through lots of different evolutions, um, growth over years. And what's been really fulfilling of late for me is getting to know different plants, um, and connecting with plants. Um, and people talk about learning plants, and they say, "Well, learn one new plant a week or whatever." Uh, but I'm a slowpoke, and it takes me. I want to learn about a plant over a period of time, and watch it bloom and collect the blooms and find out. I'm thinking of mullein right here because that was one of the first plants I really connected with, where I was just looking for it all over the place and wasn't seeing much of it. And but then I did identify a couple places, and there was this place up in the woods off my land, and um, but then I was collecting the mullein and really, with that caretaker attitude of how can I make this better? If I want to collect some leaves, how can I make the plant better? by that, and collecting the flowers to make uh, an infusion. And all of a sudden, after doing the different collections and stuff like this, uh, the connect it seems like now it just went boom, but all of a sudden I saw mullein everywhere. I My work took me, a 30-mile drive each day, and I've been looking down the same roads for a month. Where's the mullein? And now I saw it all. So uh, that kind of connection, um, that it's not totally logical, right? There's more to it than um, just the physical. Uh, but it's not so much what you do, it's that you do it. It's that find that compassion in yourself to want to help, and whatever aspect of nature it is. Um, the more, it comes down to choice, you know, um, your choice to be a caretaker, your choice to better know a plant or an animal. Um, what entities of nature draw your attention, you know, your awareness when you ask these questions of the environment increases, your observation skills increase, and that leads to more questions, which is where it's at, where it's at.
Okay.
Uh, yeah.
So, um, for the listeners, you and I met because my daughter Miko was part of the 7 Day Standard program where that she found by herself and came back really excited. And so I noticed that during sometimes we have a couple times a week, we'll go on an early evening walk. And she was teaching me how to fox walk. Um, and then she encouraged me to slow down, which was kind of surprising because everybody says I walk slow. So I was like, slow
Mm.
down. And she's like, slow down to deepen the connection with nature. And so in your book, you also talk about wide angle vision, which you mentioned just a few minutes ago. Talk to us about what that is and what that means.
Wide angle vision is a very simple but powerful tool. And, we're usually in tunnel vision. I'm looking at myself on the screen, but if you expand your vision and my hands go out to the sides and I can see both my fingers wiggling, that's extreme wide angle vision. You can narrow it down some. You're looking, nothing in your eye changes when you're doing this. It's just your intent. Uh, but when I'm looking like this, I can see the slightest motion in my whole field of vision. Tom would say you can see the blink of a rabbit's eye 40 feet away. And that's true. You can.
Hmm.
Every little, you know, if you're outside near dusk, and the bugs are out, you're going to see them. I used to love standing behind the beehives I had, uh, and just stand behind it in wide angle vision and watch all the different ways that the bees were coming into the front of the hive. Um, it just it, but it's more than just a cool thing. It's increasing your connection, your awareness. Grandfather said that wide angle vision was the doorway to invisibility. Now, invisibility, you don't, I don't disappear when I go into wide angle vision. Well, you do to the animals, for one thing. you see a deer out in the field. You look, you tunnel in on that deer. All of a sudden, it looks at you. Its tail goes up. Uh, if you stay in wide angle vision and keep that deer in that part of your vision, the deer's not going to feel you looking at it or
Hmm.
any other uh, feral animal or wild animal. Um, you're invisible to them when you're not going into that tunnel vision. I've got a great story, but we don't have time for it right now. But um,
That's
and
really
it's really
interesting.
hard. What's that?
That's really interesting.
You know,
Go ahead
uh,
and tell the story.
really?
Yeah, tell the story.
Okay. Um, this involves sit time. One winter, I was doing my evening sit. I would wander up in the woods. I have 40 some acres of woods up there, and and this was winter time. There were about 3 or 4 inches of snow on the ground, and I had on wool camo uh, pants, coat, hat, the whole thing, boots. And as I went out to go up, I picked up my scout staff, which is just a 5 foot cedar staff that I carved in my scout class in 1995. But whenever I take that with me, I get into scout mode a little bit. So I decided to go kind of farther up the hill to this place where I'd done ceremony before with some people. And as I was getting close to, in the area and walking toward the tree I was going to sit at, I saw these fisher cat tracks and thought, oh, that's a good sign. And so I'm sitting down at this tree and I'm, empowering myself. I'm connecting with the moment, and into um, a, 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 a meditative type of place. It's more of dynamic meditation, the way grandfather teaches it. But I'm in my quiet. I'm in this wide angle vision. All of a sudden, I hear these sounds coming at me, footsteps or hoof steps, or are they pat, paws. I couldn't tell, but there's a group of them coming from the um, my left, and I I started telling myself, remember wide angle vision, Randy, wide angle vision, because it's so easy to just I'm going to see, you know, yeah. So anyway, around this horizon, the land comes this buck deer, and it's coming across about 40 feet in front of me. It's getting to be dusky, and then behind it is a female deer, about 15 feet behind. 15 feet behind that deer is a yearling female, and another 15 feet behind that is a yearling male who's watching the back trail behind them. And the the male senses me, and he takes several steps toward me and is looking right at me, but he can't see me. He's looking beyond me, up, down, and I start. Oh, I'll tell him it's okay. I'm trying to send my thoughts. I love you. You're my brother. It's so, what's an honor to see you and that kind of stuff. No effect. And so okay, I will send the deer an energetic message. So I form this sphere of energy of communication um, with those thoughts I was just saying. It's cool. I love you, and I release that. And as soon as I release that sphere to the deer leapt up into the air and did 6 of these magnificent leaps around the area and ended up kind of facing me over here, but still not seeing me. And The female barely reacted, and the other two didn't. And then for the next half hour, they moseyed through this area, feeding through the snow, and the yearling buck kept watching the back trail the whole time, which is what a scout team would do, which is so incredible. It's like that, you hear about the forms of martial arts, and makes me wonder about, well, did the scouts get the idea from the deer, the way they, operate
Hmm.
like this? Um, but I did have the thought when this was all going on, um, is this the moment you've been waiting your life for? It was just like, it was so cool. And so
Wow.
it's getting darker and they're up the hill a little bit. And fine, oh, I can't sit down cross-legged for long. And my knee's killing me. And I pull my leg out, and up in the woods, I hear this, ah, it's like the deer was saying, I knew there was somebody there, you know, but it gets better. The next morning, I went up to my regular sit spot and I noticed three deer beds right near my, um, where I sit. There's a sweat lodge, there's a fire pit. And then that night, I went up to this little ridge just above it for my evening set, and there was another deer bed right there. They had followed me home, those four deer. Three of them slept down the hill from the buck up on top of the hill, watching over them and watching the house.
Wow.
I wanted to go track this whole thing, but it snowed like 3 feet the next day. So game over.
Wow. Wow.
So
That's
that's the kind of
incredible.
magic that can happen, with
Yeah.
this connecting with the earth.
Hmm. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That was a really, really cool story. Okay, so last question. What is your message, Randy, to anyone or someone looking to embark on their own journey of becoming a healer of the earth?
Find what what inroad, what avenue that really appeals to you, that that touches you in your gut, that um that when you see it not treated right, you want to remedy the problem. And that could be really anything, but what ignites your passion, and um, and take chances on connecting with things. Take uh, Tom, Tom teaches, grandfather taught tree preaching, where you just let out all your troubles, talk to the trees, and let it all hang out. Have that conversation. Tell me what I can do for you. Tell me what you need. What is it? And don't even expect answers, but they will come. The insights will come. Um, if if you formulate the question, intent drives everything. If you intend to do something, if you will something to happen, that's half the battle right there. Once anything, I'm gonna go. Your intent is to go brush your teeth. You go brush your teeth. Your intent is to go to the store. Your intent is to heal the earth. Um, you form that intent. You make the choice, and that's where it's at.
Hmm. Getting all kinds of ideas now. Well, I appreciate you, on just such short notice after meeting you, agreeing to, have this conversation. I had
Mm.
no idea it was going to be as profound as it was. But I appreciate you. And I would love the opportunity to do it again. Um, and, on any topic that that is calling to you to talk about, I'd love for us to discuss it
Wow, what
further.
a generous offer. I'm in. You know, talking about this, this is I'm living my vision. How many people can live their vision? I'm retired. I have three of the most wonderful kids in the world, and their mom is is wonderful, and my family. I mean, um, I'm I love talking about this, teaching this, helping people with this,
Hmm.
and and a lot of other stuff. You know, um, regular mundane stuff. But no, this is what inspires me. It
I love
feeds.
it. So what I'll do is, for the listeners, I will put Randy's information in the video description, so you can learn more. Um, Also about the group meetings that are going on internationally.
The
Um,
living connection first.
yep,
Yeah.
yep. I'll put that information in the video description as well. So I want to thank you listeners who tuned in, and see you on the next episode of Christina's Corner. Thank you. Love and light to you.
Mm.